going YouTube? Today's video I'm going to go over one of my big purchases for PoE, and it's not really actually something in game, it's something out of game. I recently bought a Ryzen R9 5900 and I spent around $1,000 on both the CPU and motherboard, trying to get a little bit better performance for PoE, and I just wanted to share any updates I found regarding the processor and whether you should try to upgrade your rig in order to get better FPS on PoE. And then I wanted to go over quickly this Endless Delve event, which I've been playing and it's been pretty fun. Character is currently level 90 almost, and I'm around like 200 depth. I am playing Storm Brand, and Storm Brand is not as good as some of the meta skills out there, but it's definitely very fun. And I do believe in the end game potential of it. You have heard of the story, The Tortoise and the Hare. Well, my character is the tortoise, and I'm waiting for all the hares to run out of breath, or they have to stop at the deeper nodes to rest. But we'll see what happens. Kind of far behind right now, but pretty much the only person playing Storm Brand in the event. But let's go straight into the PC upgrade, what processor I bought, and whether it is worth upgrading your computer to get better FPS in PoE. So this is the processor I bought. It's a Ryzen 9 5900X. So before this I had an i7 8700. So let's see the difference in performance between. So it should be absolutely insane, right? But like everyone knows, PoE is really something that it all depends on. So it's only plus 16%, right? But regardless, you can overclock it higher. So this is the best one, 5950 plus 15, so it's actually worse than the 5900X. So basically my rig, I have 5900, and then I also have an i7 RTX 2080 Super. I did try a lot of things. I tried uninstalling my video card drivers and reinstalling it completely. But the fact of the matter is, the game just performs like dog. Regardless of what specs I have, regardless of what settings I put it on, it cannot run 144 frames per second consistently in any sort of content. So I'm pretty much like forced to cap my FPS around like 120 or 60 FPS in order to stream. And it just feels really, really bad that you can spend so much money on an upgrade. And in almost every single other AAA game, if you had these specs, you would probably not really run into that many issues running 100 FPS. Like, I don't even want 100 FPS smoothly, but the running simulacrums, the frame does drop down to 50 or 40 now instead of 20. So I guess that is pretty much a huge improvement. But I was expecting a lot more, but in the end, I bought the CPU more for video editing and being able to multitask and do a lot of different things at once, more than expecting it to have a huge impact on my PoE performance. I did try to hold out some hope and hope for the best, but it turns out that hope is misguided. Now you might be wondering, am I running some insane graphics setting? I am running DirectX 11. It is kind of weird. With Vulkan, you get slightly smoother gameplay, but the FPS is like severely capped at 100. I'm not exactly sure what's going on. I've tried turning VSync on and off. I've tried setting a cap in the background and foreground at 240, 60. It all doesn't seem to matter. And all my settings are on low or off. I have 25% bloom, no depth of field. I have turned off dynamic resolution. I should probably try to enable it again. I do think it helps out a little bit on the performance overall. Now, the performance graph does look nice and spiffy. Now, it does say 144 FPS in this place, but as soon as you go into combat, the performance gets a lot lower. Now, in the end, I think the big thing to take away from this is that PoE is a pretty unoptimized game, and even if you have the best rig possible, like you could have the best graphics card, you could have the best CPU, but in the end, it doesn't even matter, because I've heard of stories from chat and other people telling me that they have the best computer in the world and they get performance no better than mine. And then sometimes some people tell me they have a worse rig and worse graphics card, and they just magically have better FPS. So in the end, it's all about compatibility and it's about luck more than anything else. So if you're gonna get a PC upgrade, get it for like multitasking and productivity purposes, instead of trying to hope for a huge increase in FPS or performance in PoE, because more oftentimes than not, it's just not going to happen. But anyhow, let's go over the gear and the character that I'm using currently for the Endless Delve event, which I'm playing Storm Brand Inquisitor. So the reason I'm playing Storm Brand Inquisitor is I saw that the #1 delve in softcore outside of the Immortal Juggernaut was playing Storm Brand Inquisitor, so that's why I wanted to do it. However, there's a huge difference between Trade League and SSF League. And the big difference is that you don't get easy access to Call of the Brotherhood. And without Call of the Brotherhood, I'm not sure if you actually reach the cold damage threshold to be able to freeze mobs. So right now I'm using Ice Bite support, so it gives you supporter skills at 15% chance to freeze, and it gives you some frenzy and flat cold damage from the frenzy charge. So that's my source of freeze. So basically all my gear is completely horrible, purely because of one reason only, and it's because GGG refused to add in a crafting bench on this iteration of the Endless Delve event. Now the crafting bench really exacerbates the problem of how bad it is to actually ID items on the ground. As you can see here, items in general ID'd off the ground and picked up off the ground are absolutely awful. Like, look at this item over here. This item could be good if it had any semblance of life, but unfortunately it just doesn't. So it's going to be really hard to use, and it's really hard to find upgrades. I can't stress that enough. It is incredibly hard to find upgrades. It feels like they pretty much just want you to be fossil crafting as the only way of obtaining reasonable upgrades. So I have one, I have cold damage to spells, some cast speed, profane one, nothing special. I am running obliteration to try to get some explosion because it feels really bad to play with just Stormbrand clear by itself. I might swap out this one later on once I feel like the explosions aren't really carrying me as much. So all these helm are just life resist, so I do have a lot of resist on that piece. I did find a gold rim earlier on, and this is just a Jade Amulet, no life, so I'm pretty much just using this for cast speed and all res. It's a ruby ring with life and some resist, another ring with some life resist, and some dex and int. So I'm pretty much stacking a lot of dex and int because this thing gives you 1% increased critical strike chance per point of strength for int, whichever is lower. So I'm actually trying to stack strength and int. So every point of strength right now is pretty much just going to be crit chance too, which is incredibly useful. So boots are just some life resist, 20 move speed. Haven't been able to find anything better. I'm really using a crystal belt with some life and chaos res. Trapper mids, life and cold and lightning res. So you can see the whole gear situation is pretty grim. For flask, I'm running quicksilver flask, quartz flask for the phasing, jade flask for some evasion, and granite flask just for some defenses. I could be running a diamond flask, which I do think I'll probably be swapping into. I am running a startle divine life flask, which is pretty much a seeding or gives you instant recovery if you're at low life, which I'm always at low life. And I'm using a covenant in order to reserve some auras. This is kind of like a mini prism guardian. So I'm reserving precision, clarity, and petrified blood on my life pool. And then I'm also using Vault Summon Skeletons. So the whole playstyle of this build is you put down Frostwall, you try to hide in the corner, you spawn Storm Brands, and that's pretty much it. It's very good for trying over and over again at a node in order to try to complete it, and it will become pretty useful, I hope, later on. However, there is another very strong Inquisitor build out there, which is Inquisitor Righteous Fire, which is actually extremely strong, so it might be really hard to beat them, and it is a 10-day event. And I probably won't be able to play the full days because of the upcoming gauntlet, which I do kind of want to try to participate in. So tree is kind of a mess, pretty much just taking all the brand nodes if possible, taking some sovereignty to get some reduced resist or reduced reservation costs. And then I'm taking all of the crit nodes, so you have this crit cluster here, crit cluster over here, and crit cluster over here. So I'm pretty much around like 87% crit, especially with crit strike gem and inspiration. Now the reason I want to be a high crit is because I want to always be able to freeze the mobs, but it is kind of hard to freeze the mobs. Now in terms of ascendancy, I'm running Inevitable Judgment and Pious Path. Pious Path is incredibly strong in that it gives you a lot of regen. So right now I have 786 life regen and 786 ES regen. So the character is not really like a glass cannon, but it's pretty squishy. it does have 4.1k armor. For auras, I'm running Precision, Determination, Zealotry, Clarity, Petrified Blood, Vitality. Now, if you're wondering if you should play the Endless Delve event and if you should try out this build, I'd give it a try if you like Storm Brand. There are definitely better skills out there, namely like Traps and Mines and Poisonous Concoction, and maybe even Corrupting Fever Gladiator. So there's a lot of different options. This is just my take at it, and this is pretty much a long game build where I try to farm up the gear, maybe get a Call of the Brotherhood drop in order to have a good push towards the later on. Because right now the depth doesn't really matter too much and people will get stuck. And the mechanics of the skill, I believe, personally will matter more. But this is just a quick little build update in both ways, in both my computer and in-game character. Now I wanted to show you guys something real fast before I ended the video, was that someone gave me this item, and I will try to be crafty it out with Tainted Exalted. So this is actually an insane item. So this is the item we talk about. This is a Strangleheart, a Strangle Drift, Quad Anointed, and it actually has a good Scourge on it with rarity and elemental damage of attacks. It is actually an Onyx Amulet. So what we're going to do is we're going to spam a lot of Tainted Exalts and try to get something really, really good. So one day when the claw is mirrored, we're going to have some pretty good gear going into it. But thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you do try out the Endless Delve event. It is kind of fun. Oh yeah, and if you're wondering what you get for doing the Endless Delve event, you actually get a level 50 Atlantis loot box or whatever. And you want to see what I got from the loot box? A lot of people make fun of my pet, but it's large and in charge. Look at this. It's called Pegasus or something. But it looks sick. Siren Pegasus pet. Definitely the best thing to come out of the Endless Delve event. But thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you find more mirrors, Mage Bloods, and Exalts than me. And see you next time. Bye.